Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 30th day, last day of November, folks. Big game on tonight. Well, somewhat big, I guess. Seattle, Dallas, a couple of big brands, particularly Dallas. Speaking of big brands, I've got Mike Richman coming on. As you can see at the bottom of the screen here, Mike Richman is a writer. He is a Washington Commanders historian. It would be the proper way to describe this gentleman. He's got a book called George Allen, A Football Life. And it's about the former Washington then Redskins coach. And I also wanted to mention the Ford is written by the great Dick Vermeil, Super Bowl winning coach there. So he'll be in 30 minutes past the hour. Plus, Zach Ertz has got granted a release. Pretty funny situation the way that planned out. If he makes through waivers, Ertz will be. If he makes it through waivers, Zach Ertz will be able to sign with another team. Good chance he goes back to the Eagles, perhaps, or maybe a few other teams there. I'll talk about that here in just a second. Plus, I'll give you a few games, not 5 games against the spread, because I have a guest tonight. I'll talk about that and more. Let's go ahead and get our only break out of the way. We'll be back here. 49 seconds, hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Okay, tonight's game. Now, Dallas at home against Seattle. Geno Smith is supposed to be healthy. He strides ahead of where he was last week. So that Geno Smith is supposedly, according to Pete Carroll, he's going to be way better. We'll see about that. I'll tell you what, though, guys, Dallas at home. For the record here, a lot of people, I know Carlos kind of poo-pooed the fact that I said Dallas was number 5 team in my power ranking. As of today, even though they have not beat up on great teams, Dallas has the best average points per game in the NFL, 31.5. They have passed Miami at 31.8. Dak is having a career season, folks. I mean, it is what it is. He's having a great year. What is it, DeRon Bland or whatever? They had Dallas set the record for most pick sixes during a season, 5 or something like that. He's playing really good defensive back for the Cowboys. Good chance, by the way, they may get Shaq Leonard. Shaq is going to make his decision this weekend. He met up with the Eagles and the Cowboys. Side note there. But that being said, Dallas anywhere from 8.5 to 9.5 point favorites here. You could add this to my points against the spread, like Dallas to win the night and cover that 34-16. I think they play well. I think they play well. They have played well at home. There's no reason to say why they will not continue to play well at home. Seattle is they're an up-and-coming team, okay? I've talked about this last week with Geno Smith, last Friday's show, or was it Thursday? I can't remember. Makes no never mind. With the kind of skill positions that Seattle has at this point, and their offensive line, which is above average. It's not great. It's above it. It's very young. It's very young. They should be producing better than what they are. Geno Smith has taken a step back. He looks more like the guy towards the end of last season. If you go back and look at some of the box scores when they played that cold day, Christmas Eve, that Saturday before Christmas last year, they laid a total egg at Kansas City. I think Kansas City beat them like 31-7. He was a huge disappointment. Their secondary was nowhere near as good as it is now. The Chiefs there. So, anyways, Geno Smith, they're going to have to get a quarterback. You know, they've got some pieces on defense. I like Devin Witherspoon at cornerback. He may get a pick tonight. He may pick Dak Prescott. I like him. Jamal Adams hasn't been as healthy as Seattle would have liked him to be, but you know, they're decent up front. Probably can use another defensive tackle in the draft coming up. A little long in the tooth. I know they got Wagner back at the linebacker position, but they're getting better at the cornerback there. And if you look at guys like Jason the Jigma Smith, not quite as good as expected. A lot of that may be because Smith's play. You throw DK Metcalf in there, Lockett. I mean, that's a pretty good skill group there. Noah Fant was way better as a Denver Bronco. So they're probably a year off. They need the quarterback. I think they will get a quarterback. I don't know when, either first round, free agency, or what. I think they'll do something, probably not a big chunk free agency because they're still owed Geno Smith some money. But they've got to answer that question towards the end of the season coming in. They should not have lost to the Rams. I mean, that was just 2 losses to a Ram team that's got a lot of holes in their secondary. The Rams are still in the playoffs. But all that being said, again, I like Dallas tonight to win and cover, to talk about that in a nutshell. Okay, now, Zach Ertz. Pickle says Zach Ertz knows the Eagles. This is hilarious, guys. Okay, now, Zach Ertz he talked the Arizona Cardinal management into releasing him. And in Rappaport reports, before he was released, Arizona Cardinals tight end, he put this on his Twitter feed, X feed or whatever, in Rappaport, for him to give up 1 game check this week to facilitate the move. He's given up a whole game check. Now, depending on what site you go to, whether it be for Pro Football Focus or Pro Football Talk, or this Spot Track here that I like to go to, he's basically anywhere from $300,000 to $600,000 just to get the bleep out of Arizona, Pickles. Is that hilarious or what? And they're like, okay, we'll get out of here then. They traded for him a couple years ago with the Eagles. Now the Eagles have Dallas Goedert, who's injured. He did play with the Eagles before. He's a much better player, a little bit older player, but a much more talented player than a Dallas Goedert. Arizona's rebuilding. I don't know if I would have granted him that, though. I would have maybe, because I think he's got another year left. I would have probably tried to trade him in the offseason. I was surprised they did what they did, but the owner is pretty cheap. Maybe he simply wanted to save that game check, but he forfeited a game check to facilitate this thing. Now, again, he's got to get through waivers, okay? Now, I could have swore I had this stuff. Okay, here we go. All right, Pro Football Talk. They're really good at Ertz contract. If only one team that Ertz wouldn't want to join that makes the claim, anyone who claims Ertz, he's still on waivers. Anyone who claims Ertz would assume the balance of $8.755 million contract with the Cardinals on the hook for Week 13. A new team would owe him $2.43 million, and they've only got, 5 or 6 games left. So, yeah, quite a bit of money. Okay, given his performance to the date, it's a lot to pay. But if a team like the Commanders or the Giants wants to simply prevent the Eagles from bringing back an old friend who could simply become a key contributor down the stretch, Mike Floyer from Pro Football Talk says Ertz could retire or otherwise not show up if claimed by a team he doesn't want to play for. He would be losing $2.43 million. When you get older, that's a lot of money. Now, I know he's made quite a bit, but there's no way I would do that. But I do know that Deion Sanders did it when Marty Schottenheimer, he got claimed and he retired. He didn't want to play for Marty Schottenheimer is what I read. Okay. So it's far better for the Cardinals if he's claimed. If Ertz isn't claimed, he'll be entitled to the balance of his salary as a termination pay unless he agreed to waive in order to get released. Regardless, there's a way for any non-Super Bowl contenders to throw a wrench in Ertz's plan. Whether any team will do it is a different question. Whether any team can, the truth is that every team can. So why are you claiming him when you're 2-9, Spite? So I know that sounds, but yeah. So Mike said that he's seen this before with Deion Sanders not wanting to play for Marty Schottenheimer when he was coaching the then Washington Redskins. Which again, I've got a guest coming on here, just writing a book about George Allen, former coach of the then Redskins, coming up here in just a little bit. Okay, yeah. Pickle says spite. Yeah. So why are you claiming him? Yeah, spite. Well, I'm taking this. Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld. He didn't like the way this guy assumed that him and Elaine, this suit salesman in air quotes, he didn't like the way that he assumed that they weren't together. Okay. And the guy was real kind of uppity and arrogant to clean it up. So he takes this suit back, and the lady's like, "What are you taking a suit back for?" He said, "Well, spite." He said, and then she's like, "Well, I don't know if we can take it back for spite." So she goes to the manager. She's like, "Well, let me go ask my manager." And you can hear Jerry in the background, looking at him, and she doesn't walk too far away, and you can the microphone can pick up the woman talking to the manager, and she's like, "He said spite." The guy, and then the manager's like, "Spite?" And then a guy comes up to Jerry. "Why are you taking a suit back, spite?" "Well, sir, we don't take suits back for spite." "Well, I don't like it." And he said, "Well, you already said spite, So it's really funny. I missed that show. Sometimes when I renew my Netflix, they've got it right now, and I'll go back and watch some of the old classics. But so basically, somebody could claim Zach Ertz for spite against the Eagles, and part of me kind of wish they would. I mean, Eagles are really stacking their team. I hope that Dallas can find a way to sign Shaq Leonard, and so we'll see how that thing plays out. Now, okay, other points against the spread here. Okay. Now Miami minus 9.5 at Washington Commanders. Speaking of the Devils here, remember a few weeks ago, the Raiders went down to Miami, double-digit underdogs. I want to say 13.5 points. Miami coming off a bye week looked like a perfect storm for the Dolphins to roll like they have early in the season, back when they played Denver and put 70 points on them. Well, that didn't happen because that was one of my predictions. Remember, folks, that was a 7-point game. the Raiders covered. The Raiders covered on the road. Washington is getting 9.5 at home. Now, mind you, folks, Washington got humiliated just a week ago tonight, right? Tonight's Thursday. A week ago was Thanksgiving. They got humiliated at 40 million people watched that game in Dallas, okay? And after that game, Ron Rivera ends up firing Jack Del Rio, fired the defensive coordinator, and, teams that usually get beat like that bounce back, okay? This game's going to be played at Landover, Maryland, where the Commanders play. I expect the defense to really be spread out and probably play some type of zone. I do think that two things can be true. I do think they'll get a lot of yards. I do think Tyreek Hill will probably get 125, 140 yards in this game, okay? But I also think that this team will play better. They know that Rod Rivera's job is on the line. It might not save his job regardless. He's probably dead men walking, job-wise anyways. But that being said, I think the pride will take place here. I think they'll run the ball with Brian Robertson. I think, obviously, I do think Miami will win the game. And plus, this is a second road game for Miami, too. They went home, went back on the road. So this feels like a 27-23 Miami wins, but Washington, that 9.5 is a lot of points now. I think they will cover that. Okay, now this one's a little bit more tricky. This is tricky. Okay, Kansas City, Sunday night will play at the Packers. Packers playing a lot better football here lately. Just went on about Jordan Love, his improvement with this team. But also, I like this Rashid Rice here, Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs usually play really good in prime time here. Cloudy, a little bit of rain. This game will be played in Green Bay here in Lambeau Field. I know they beat the Detroit Lions by 7 points. They come back home playing a little bit better. But this Chiefs team, really good defensive team, very underrated from a defensive standpoint. I actually think that the Chiefs will win this game and cover. I like Spagnato against this young quarterback here. Now they're 6-point favorites, but it's close. 24-17 there. 24-17 Chiefs win and they barely cover there. Okay. So, okay, here's another one, folks. Listen, Eagles are a great team. All right. I do think they're a great team, but they have come off two big, heavily emotional games. Monday night, then they played late Sunday afternoon. Fletcher Cox looks like there's and Rappaport saying just before I came on the program, there's a very good chance that he doesn't play in this game. Dallas Goddard is week to week. That's why a lot of talk about Zach Ertz just came up. By the way, so the whole thing about Zach Ertz, obviously the Eagles will be a play. The Ravens would be a play for the Eagles because Mark Andrews is out. So those will be big players for that. Possibly Buffalo because Dawson Knox is out. I think it's going to be a bidding war between the Ravens and, of course, his former team. It's a very heavy favorite for the Eagles to get him back, by the way. But I don't think that's going to happen Sunday. I don't think he can come back and play. Maybe they can figure it out, but I don't think so. I think he's good. He's taking this week off, taking the game check off, and I think he'll be back next week. Either way, 49ers, Eric Armstead's supposed to be back. Pretty healthy. Healthiest they've been in a long time here. A little bit of light rain. Listen, folks, the Eagles are 27-28. Depending on what week you watch against the pass, I do think that I think the 49ers get them back and they win this game. We'll talk about this again tomorrow with Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez. But this feels like 27-22 49ers get the road win against the Eagles, and they cover. That's just 2.5. They're 2.5-point favorites on the road. Okay, this is the game of the week, but this is also a game that I like against the spread, folks. So this is one primetime money 49ers will run the rock. Yeah. Even though Eagles got a good defensive line, the Niners will find a way to run between the gaps there on the corners with that zone block and running scheme with Christian McCaffrey here. This would be really impressive if the Eagles can win these next. The Eagles got Dallas next week. And see, Dallas is playing tonight. This is a huge advantage for Dallas. They're playing tonight, not unless somebody big gets injured tonight, go figure. But Dallas playing tonight. Okay. Eagles are playing late Sunday afternoon. They're going to play. They're going to play at Dallas next week here. I don't know what the time is. That maybe they flex it out. But either way, the Eagles. This is the toughest part of their schedule. And then after this, I want to say they got Arizona and the Giants twice after this, and then it's pretty much to walk in the park for the Eagles. It's a walk in the park here for the Philadelphia Eagles, but I do like the 49ers cover that 2.5. Kansas City cover that 6, and the Washington and the 9.5 at home against the Miami Dolphins. There were some other games that were pretty close here. Lions -4.5. The Saints. Lattimore's still out there leading corner. I can't trust either one of these teams right now because the cornerbacks are out for the Lions. I didn't touch that game, Pickles. I just, the Saints are getting 4.5 at home. Both teams coming off loss. Both teams really need these wins. The teams like the Titans +1.5. That was tempting to take that against the Colts, but the Colts are playing much better now. Look how good the Colts offensive line is. Gardner Minshew, Titans, shaky secondary. I could see the Titans finding a way to run the ball and move it against that shaky secondary of the Colts as well. Mike Evans had a good day against the Colts last week. Games like that are really close that you could see just stay away from games. The Titans and the Colts are staying away from games. The Lions and the Saints is a stay away from game. The Falcons and the Jets, that may be the worst game on TV, Pickles. The Falcons and the Jets, maybe if you want to alternate the spread, the Jets are getting 1.5. You have the option to do that on FanDuel. You can alternate the spread there. Maybe give the Jets 7.5. Something like that of that nature. Yeah, maybe take the Jets. But other than that, Aaron Rodgers is refusing to rule out early return despite quarterback admitting he remains somewhere near ready after. So I don't know if Rodgers – maybe they feel motivated by that. They play well. They beat the Falcons. But my thing is that is an awful game. That game will be on Red Zone, Pickles. That particular game will be on Red Zone all day, and nobody wants to watch it. I don't even know the name of the backup quarterback right there. I know it's going to be Ritter versus whoever the Jets decide to put in there. That other guy they played, they got smoked against the other guy. They got who was it? that the Dolphins went up there and beat up on last week. Okay, so it looks like Mike Richman is backstage. Perfect, my friend. Perfect. Okay, so let me introduce my guest here. Mike Richman is a Washington Commanders historian, independent journalist, and he can correct me if I'm wrong there. He wrote a book. He wrote quite a few books about the organization. Tonight, we'll talk about the latest book he has. Let me make sure I got this right. George Allen, A Football Life. The Ford is written by Dick Vermeil. So let's go ahead and bring Mike in. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
How you doing, Pickles?
No, I'm Robert.
Robert, I'm sorry. I see
Yeah, Pickles on the screen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you know something that how do you know what started to say Mike Vrabel. Oh God, who wrote your Ford there?
Dick Vermeil.
Dick Vermeil, excuse me. Yeah. By the way, I wore the maroon tie in honor of the Washington Commanders / Redskins. How about that? Okay.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you know Dick Vermeil? I mean, I love Dick Vermeil. I mean, he's great.
Right. Oh, I don't know him personally. I know of him, and I know that he was George Allen's selection as special teams coach in 1969.
Okay.
Allen hired one of the first special teams coaches in the league, who happened to be Dick Vermeil. The Eagles hired Marv Levy the same year, 1969. So those two were the first two special teams coaches. So I knew right off the bat that he would have some great things to say about George Allen, and sure enough, he did. He was a great forward. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I was researching the program for the program last night. Sometimes I get insomnia, right? And I was looking at an interview of George Allen, like 1975. And I like what he said. He said, yeah, I really like this guy. You know, he was talking about Marv Levy. I'm like, man, Marv Levy. And you said Dick Vermeil, two Super Bowl level coaches. He's got a heck of a coaching tree.
Oh, he absolutely does. I mean, not only Vermeil and Levy, but there were other assistants that coached under him who went on to become great head coaches in the NFL, such as Ted Marchibroda being one, who, after being an assistant with Allen with the Los Angeles Rams and the Redskins, Marchibroda, of course, went on to have some great years with the Baltimore Colts. And later, I believe, he coached the Indianapolis Colts in later years. But he's one of them. But there were many other assistants that coached under Allen that went on to great careers. Howard Schnellenberger, great college coach.
Yeah.
Won national championship in Miami in 1983. He was an assistant under Allen in, I think, both 66 and 67, or it may just been one of those years. But it was an assistant under Allen back then. Yeah. So
he was Bill Parcells.
Allen has quite a coaching tree. What's that?
Is he Bill Parcells before Parcells? You know, everybody talks about Parcells' coaching tree, you know?
Yeah, well, Allen was so defensive oriented, and Parcells was the same thing. Their primary focus for both of them was defense. Although Allen also incorporated special teams. He was a pioneer in the area of special teams in the NFL. So he was a pioneer in both defense and special teams.
Wow. Yeah. I was thinking, man, you've wrote. Is this your third or fourth book?
This is actually the fourth book I've authored. The first one was the Redskins Encyclopedia, which came out in 2007. That was a compilation of all the years of the Redskins' existence up until that time. They were formed in 1932. So I went through the 2006 season. So that a total of 75 years.
Wow.
The book came out in 2007. I wrote the Washington Redskins Football Vault in 2010. Yeah. I wrote the text for that. That was a heavy memorabilia book. The game program covers, press passes, ticket stubs. I mean, they really made that book extra special. But I wrote the text for that book, which was also a look at the Redskins going back to their origin. And then I wrote Joe Gibbs' Enduring Legacy.
I wrote a lot
of the text for that book, and I edited that book. Yeah, that came out in 2015, and that was actually published by his foundation, Youth for Tomorrow. But that was divided into four main chapters: Redskins, NASCAR, big NASCAR owner, obviously.
Yeah.
Youth for Tomorrow, the foundation that he founded, and his spiritual life. And now George Allen, A Football Life.
Wow. So, you know, I was thinking to myself, I said, you know, Mr. Richman here, kind of like Bubba from Forrest Gump. He knows everything there is to know about the history of the Washington Commanders.
Well, I know quite a bit, yes.
Yeah.
And I've known them mostly as the Washington Redskins over the years.
Yeah.
The Commanders just it was initiated, I think, 2021. So I've known them mostly as the Redskins. And George Allen, when he coached the team, they were known as the Redskins back then. And also, you asked most of the players today, they of course played for the team. The great players, they played for the team when they were known as the Redskins, and even don't have to be great players, but any players for that matter.
Yeah.
They want to be remembered as Washington Redskins.
Yes, yes. And you mentioned that in the email, and don't let me forget that. You mentioned the logo that George Allen, he had. What is the connection with him with the Washington Redskins logo? That is fascinating.
It is a fascinating story. So prior to the 1972 season, a prominent Native American named Walter Blackie Wetzel, he was chairman of Blackfeet Nation in
Okay.
Montana, but he also had a presence in Washington, D.C. He was president of the National Congress of American Indians for several years in the early to mid 60s. So he liked the Redskins. He followed them when he was in D.C.
Yeah.
And prior to the 72 season, he approached George Allen, who was the Redskins coach at the time, and he said, Coach, listen, I don't like the R on the Redskins helmets. That it was a R logo that Vince Lombardi had envisioned.
Yeah.
Vince Lombardi coached here in 1969. So he wanted something resembling what he had in Green Bay. He had the G in Green Bay. So that's how the R on the helmet came about. So the Redskins had that in the 70 and 71 seasons. So Walter Blackie Wetzel said, I don't like the R on the helmets. We need something more creative, something
Yeah.
depicting a proud Native American.
Yeah.
So Allen said, go back to your tribal officials, come up with some ideas and come back to me. Let me know what you have found out. So he came back with a composite of the Native American chief on the Buffalo nickel, which
Okay.
is the logo that existed on the Redskins helmet for almost a half century before it was retired in 2020. But Allen okayed that. When Wetzel came back with the idea, Allen okayed that, and that's how that logo was approved.
Wow. So I mean, that just goes to show you that there's a positive connotation behind Redskins.
Well, I've tried to explain that to
For 30
over the years
years.
since this controversy is first resurfaced about a decade ago,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
obviously led to the retirement of the name and the logo. But I've tried to explain that it was a Native American that was involved in the creation of the logo that existed
Yeah.
on the Redskins helmet for nearly a half century. I mean, and actually, that Native American Wetzel, he was quoted in the Washington Post in 2002 saying it's only a minority of Native Americans that oppose the name. Most Native Americans look at it as a matter, something to be proud of.
Yeah.
The fierce-looking Indian chief on the
Yeah.
Redskins helmet, the Indian chief that was on the Buffalo nickel. I mean, that is something they were so proud of, and Wetzel said it was only a minority of Native Americans that opposed the name Redskins. I'm sure that the polls have shown that over the years too. There's been major polls, Associated Press, Washington Post, that have
Yeah.
basically concluded the same thing. 90% of Native Americans are not offended by it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So I got a little ahead of myself. So why are you writing the book?
well, let me start by saying I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, Montgomery County, Maryland, where I still live today. Montgomery County is a suburb of D.C.
Yeah.
So when Allen came here in 1971 to coach the Redskins, I was 10 years old at the time, and I just became hooked on that team. That was my team to follow every Sunday. And I would really, I got so attached to the team that, I would be on a high if they won, and I would be
Yeah.
depressed if they
I'm
lost.
out
So,
of Nashville. I feel you with the Titans and
right.
University of Tennessee, the college team. So go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Great college team, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so that was my team, and I got to know Allen as the coach, and I knew all the players and their numbers, so forth. And even my father, he owned a men's clothing store here, and he invited one of the players to come for a promotional appearance, and it was running back Charlie Haraway, who was a Larry Brown's blocking back in the late 60s, early 70s with the Redskins. So I got to hang out with him for a day. I was in heaven that day. And so he had
Yeah.
all these things up. And I went to the two most famous wins in when Allen coached the Redskins here, the playoff games in 72. They beat Green Bay in the opening round in the 72 season. Then they beat Dallas. They demolished Dallas in the championship game, 26 to
Okay.
3. That was the crowning moment in Allen's
Who
NFL
was the
coaching
Dallas
career.
quarterback then?
Roger Staubach.
Will Staubach. Okay. Okay.
Roger
Awesome.
Staubach and Morton had actually played most of that season because Staubach got hurt. Like I
Yeah.
think into the fourth or fifth game into the season. So Morton played for the rest of the season. Then he got benched in the first round playoff game. Staubach came in and he led the Cowboys to a comeback win over the 49ers that year.
Okay.
So Staubach started that playoff game.
Wow. You mentioned
Yeah.
Larry Brown. I talked about my interview with you at work today. A gentleman, Philip, if you're watching, he says his dad got him involved with the Redskins. He says, ask you about Larry Brown. You just mentioned Larry Brown. He had he was partially deaf, or was he full deaf? What's the issue with the ear situation there?
Sure, he was partially deaf, or may still be today, but wears a hearing aid. I know that. But anyway, so when he was drafted by the Redskins in 1969, Lombardi noticed that he wasn't hearing the signals like he should be when he was
Okay.
sitting up in the backfield. So Lombardi called him over one day and he said, uh, Larry, can you hear me? And he couldn't hear him that well. They were in like the locker room or something. So he was fitted with a hearing aid. And that's how that whole story surfaced.
Okay.
Lombardi had him fitted with a hearing aid.
He didn't know he had a hearing problem?
Not he was not well. Lombardi didn't draft him. He was drafted by the previous coach,
Okay.
Otto
Got
Graham. I believe he was drafted by his regime. But Lombardi noticed, I guess, when training camp came around in that summer of '69, and Larry Brown was a rookie.
Yeah.
Lombardi noticed that he had a hearing problem. He was struggling hearing the signals in the backfield when he was in a 3-point stance in the backfield.
Yeah.
So
That is fascinating.
Lombardi saw it for the first time, but Larry Brown had a great rookie season. He rushed for nearly 900 yards.
Yeah.
He was runner-up in NFL Rookie of the Year voting to Calvin Hill that year. Then he had a 1,000-yard season in 1970. So Allen inherited him. It was one of the great players that Allen inherited when he came here in 1971. He inherited Charlie Taylor, great receiver in the Hall of Fame today. Jerry Smith, great tight end. He should be in the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame, and I hope he gets considered by the seniors committee someday. Chris Hamburger, Hall of Fame linebacker.
Hmm.
Allen inherited him too. Then he brought in some really great veteran players, which was Allen's thing. That he loved veterans. So he brought in Ron McDowell and Berlin Biggs and Roy Jefferson, players like that. And so
Yeah.
he made those Redskins a really, really competitive team.
Yeah. Yeah. And I read that he won Coach of the Year twice, right?
Yes, he won it once when he was in LA,
Yeah.
and he won it in 1971 as well when he coached the
Okay.
Redskins.
But he never won a championship with Washington. A
Never
Super Bowl.
did. Actually, in his 12 years in the NFL, he never won a championship, but he came close. I mean, he took the Redskins to Super Bowl VII in the 1972 season. They lost in that Super Bowl to the Dolphins. That was a
Oh
17-0 Dolphins team. So, but he took them to the Super Bowl that year. But other than that, he never took a team to the Super Bowl. Uh, he got knocked out of the first round in the first round of the playoffs 7 times in his career.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, 6. Twice with the Rams and 4 times with the Redskins. After that 72 Super Bowl appearance, the Redskins kind of plateaued. They were a very good team, but they weren't really one of the elite teams in the league.
Okay.
So, but he had them in the playoffs 3 more times after that 72 Super Bowl.
Okay. So have you been like a season ticket holder this whole time?
I've never held season tickets for the team. I can get press credentials for the team. I've gotten press credentials over the
Oh,
years.
nice. Okay.
Yes, gotten press credentials. I've done a lot of internal work for the organization over the years. I've written uh, the copy for their media guides a couple of years. I wrote. They used to have a deal with Sports Illustrated magazine, like a marketing supplement that appeared in Sports Illustrated. I wrote the text for, like, we would pick out a historical theme as the text, and I wrote the text for that several years. And so yeah,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work internally, but I've gotten press credentials from them, and I really
Yeah.
welcome that. Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing.
But
Let me ask you
interestingly,
this.
never been a
Yeah.
season ticket holder. Although my father had an opportunity when we first moved down here from New York City in the mid '60s. He
Okay.
had a chance. There was somebody who lived very close to us then in Bowie, Maryland. He wanted to go in with my father, like a co season ticket holder deal. You know, they'd split the home games for
Yeah.
the season. But my father decided not to. And it was actually, it ended up being a good time to be a Redskins season ticket holder because they were a really exciting team in the 60s. And then Allen took them to a new level when he came here to coach in 1971.
Do you credit Allen for the value? There was an article in 1998. Forbes had the Redskins as the second most valuable organization in the whole NFL, only to the Dallas Cowboys. You would think it would be Chicago or New York. Uh, why do you think? What's the reason? And I know they fell off a little bit, but when Snyder took over, they're still like what, 5 or 6 or something like that.
They're up there. I don't think they're at the same point they were in the late 90s
Yes.
and for much of the early 2000s. They were up there. It wasn't only that one year, 1998. I mean,
Yeah.
they were worth like $5-6 billion, and in fact, Snyder just sold the franchise for $6 billion.
Yeah.
So, but I think what you're alluding to with your question is that the fanaticism with the Redskins really started with George Allen in the early 70s.
Okay, that's what I was. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
You got the background there.
right, the value of the team,
Yeah.
it became a very, very lucrative franchise when Allen was coaching here in the 70s. It wasn't only because of Allen and the popularity that he created with the team. I mean, you have these lucrative television contracts as well
Okay.
that increased the value for all the franchises. It just so happened that when Snyder purchased the team in 1999,
Yeah.
he also sold the naming or acquired the naming rights to sold the naming rights to the stadium because he bought the stadium too. So he
Okay.
sold the naming rights to FedEx for that, and so the team became, I mean, just astronomical in terms of its value at that time.
What's the story about the Hogs?
The Hogs were
Yeah,
originated.
I'm a big NFL Network guy. I never understood the whole craze fan base with the Hog thing.
Sure, the Hogs originated during the Joe Gibbs 1 era. He came
Okay.
here to coach in 1981, and that year he acquired a lot of the players who later became the Hogs. He
Yeah.
signed Joe Jacoby as a free agent, offensive tackle. Russ Grimm,
Uh huh.
great guard out of Pitt, signed him.
Yeah.
Mark May, another great player out of Pitt, signed him too. So, and then he had a free agent. He inherited a free agent center named Jeff Bostic. So all those
Okay.
guys became the Hogs, and they remained with the Redskins throughout Gibbs' entire,
So
except for
that's
Mark
what the
May. He
fans
left.
got to dressing up like the. Okay.
Right. Well, they were named the offensive coordinator, Joe Bugle,
Yeah.
coined the term hogs. It has something to do with, I guess, one day in practice, he wanted them to get down and dirty or something like that. You get down, hit pen, you
Yeah.
hogs. So that's how the name was originated.
Wow. Wow.
But I
What
mean,
is
it's
your
stuck to this
favorite?
day.
Yeah. What's your favorite team year wise for the? I know they got three Super Bowls now. In the '80s with Joe Gibbs, 3 different quarterbacks. What's your favorite year? What year that really sticks out more than the others? Being a longtime fan and writer of the organization.
Sure, I would have to say, well, I'll just go with Gibbs' greatest team, which was the '91 team.
It was the
I mean,
night. Okay,
the
that was the
'83.
first Super Bowl I've ever watched all the way through. I mean, I'm 42 now. My dad watches the program. I've watched a little bit in the '80s of a little bit of the '85 Bears. That was a blur to me. I watched a little bit of the '89 Super Bowl, the Bengals and the 49ers. But that '91 Mark Ripken led Super Bowl team, Mark Schlereth on that team, I watched it all the way through. I was hooked on the NFL ever since. And you're saying that's the best team?
I think of the 3 teams that went to the Super Bowl or that won Super Bowls, I think
Yeah.
that was Gibbs' best team. The '83 team was a phenomenal team on offense. I mean, they were what they scored 5 or league record 541 points that year,
Wow.
but the defense was really lax. I don't think the
Okay.
defense was. I think the defense was much better in '91. It was a more well-rounded team in '91. They still scored nearly 500 points a year. I mean, Rippon had an amazing season,
Yeah.
and the Hogs. Rippon was, he was as slow as a turtle, but the Hogs only allowed nine sacks that year. Okay, so
Woo!
which really masked a lot of his
Wow.
deficiencies, in terms of a lack of mobility.
Some of these
So
offensive lines, allow that in one game nowadays. Big John Riggins.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Riggins wasn't with that team. He retired, I believe, after the '85 season. But his greatest year was '82. He had
Okay.
some really great years in the early '80s, but he really came to life in '82 when he had that postseason. He rushed for more than 600 yards in that 4-game postseason because they added an extra playoff game because of that was one of the strike shortened seasons. So
Okay.
he had that amazing postseason run, literally and figuratively, in the '82 season, and he was MVP of the Super Bowl when he rushed for 166 yards, Super Bowl 17. But he also had a great year in 1983. But yeah, to answer your question, I would say it wasn't only my favorite year, but that was Gibbs' best team. So I would say since it's been more than 30 years since they have had that dominant a team,
Yeah.
I would have to say that's the team that I really long for. Put it that way.
I'm glad you said that, 'cause that was ironic, man. 'Cause like I said, that was the year I really fell for the NFL, and that is something else. Okay, let's fast forward until now. You got a new owner here, Josh Harris. What's your thoughts on the organization going forward with the new ownership and all?
Sure. Well, I think Harris and his team will really put their mark on the franchise for the first time with a new coach after the season. I think it's inevitable that Ron Rivera and
Okay,
his staff are going to be fired. I don't think it's going to happen during the season. I think they could be knocked out of the playoffs any of these coming weeks. I don't know what the mathematical situation is, like how many losses they need to have, he's going to go. I mean, Rivera's been here. This is fourth season,
yeah,
and he's just been mediocre the whole time. He's really been a mediocre coach throughout his tenure in the NFL. He had, I think, two great seasons. He had that 15-win season in
Carolina, yeah,
2015. Yeah, Carolina. I believe he had an 11-win season in Carolina as well. Other than that, he's really been like a 500 level coach. But he's done going back to the Hogs
yeah,
he's done very little with the offensive line, if anything. And this year, we see it with all of the times that Sam Howell's been sacked. It was
yes,
60 times, if not more, this season. You just have to think back to the Hogs, and if you have that dominant offensive line, that will. I mean, first of all, they have really good playmakers, receivers, running backs. Sam Howell. I mean, he's
yeah.
the
Well,
future
Sam, so you're
quarterback.
saying Howell will get another opportunity next year?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, okay,
I think he's established himself as the franchise quarterback at this
yeah.
point, uh, heading into the future. They need an offensive line, though. They need, like the Cowboys, for instance, they have several future Hall of Famers on that offensive line, potential future Hall of Famers on that offensive line, at least 3 players. You need a great defense as well, and they have good defensive players.
Yeah.
But anyway, to your point, Harris, they'll make their most prominent stamp. They'll put
Okay.
their most prominent stamp on the team with a new coaching staff.
What about a general manager and personnel? Are they going to do something with that, or
I hope they do. I think it's a lot of responsibility these days for the coach to also be the GM. I hope they go with the GM. If they separate that, they have a true general manager as well as somebody handling
was
the coaching
Rivera picking the
responsibilities.
players?
What's that?
Was Rivera picking the players like
He
Belichick?
had he had a lot of oversight as the GM.
Oh
Yes,
God,
he has
yes.
had that. Yeah,
That
I
never
think it's a little
works.
outdated. I think it's a little outdated.
Way
But
outdated.
but yeah, I think Rivera's time has come. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Eric Bieniemy because he was brought here. A lot
Yeah.
of people
Well,
thought he would
yeah.
be
I
the
don't even have to ask
successor.
you the question. I was gonna. Is he gonna be one of the first to be interviewed? As good as the offense has been, or is he head coaching material?
I don't. I think the jury's still out. Really, I mean,
Yeah.
Howell's like I said. Howell's been incredibly productive as a quarterback in his second year in the NFL. I mean,
Yes.
he's thrown his touchdown passes and his total yardage. I mean, he's among the tops in the league. So, but on the other hand, sacked quite a few times, and
Yeah.
there's been other deficiencies with the offense, and that's what Bieniemy's focus is primarily on. So the jury's still out with him. It's mixed reviews. I don't know what's going to happen with Bieniemy, but it'll be very interesting to see if, in the eyes of the new owners, he has done enough to qualify himself to become the next head coach.
Yeah. Yeah. If you had your choice, what would you do at coach there? If they say, well, you know what, you've covered the team a long time, Mike, we're going to give you open checkbook. Go after any coach you want to. Who would you like to see coach the Commanders now?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a little bit of a political answer. Well, first about Bieniemy, we got to wait and
Be
see
the
till
first
the end
guy
of
to
the
interview. Yeah, I'll say that too.
let's wait and see till the end of the season regarding him, though.
Yeah.
Okay, like I said, it's been mixed reviews. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. There's just been so many problems with the offense, and so let's give it him till the end of the season. I'd like to see a young, energetic coach. I mean, I don't know how the Eagles do it all the time,
Yeah.
like Nick Sirianni. I mean,
Yeah.
this is his first NFL head coaching stint. Why can't we obtain somebody like that?
Yeah.
I would like to see them get this young, energetic coach here. And they've let so many coaches out the door that they've had in house. They've had the Rams coach McVay. He
Oh,
was in house.
yeah.
He was in
I
house.
forgot about that. Yeah.
LaFleur with the Packers. He was in
Shanahan.
house. Kyle Shanahan, of course, he was in house. He was an assistant under his father.
Yeah.
McDermott with Buffalo, I believe he was in house too.
Okay.
Cincinnati Bengals, Vikings coaches, they were here at one time. So we've just let so many of them out the door.
Oh, wow. Yeah. 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 I kind of figured that with Ron Rivera. At least you're thinking straight about. I mean, I like Rivera too. He seems like a decent guy. He won Coach of the Year twice. That's kind of a media award, but he probably still get a job as a coordinator somewhere. Wouldn't you think?
I don't know. I don't know what his future in the NFL is going to be. I mean, he's not an old guy. I mean, what, he's about 60 years old. I mean, he certainly has
Yeah.
some
He still
some
looks kind of
legs in
young to
terms of
me.
if he wants
Yeah.
to still coach. I
Yeah.
don't know if anybody would hire him as a head coach at this point.
Or
But I
DC
think
is what I'm saying. That defense.
what's that?
Defense coordinator.
Yeah, I think he could be a defensive coordinator
Okay.
somewhere. It'll be interesting to see if somebody brings him on in that role. I mean, he's a former linebacker.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean,
I think he
that's his
played with the
expertise.
85 Bears, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He was part
Okay.
of that
So
defense.
I've got you on the bottom of the screen. Is that correct? Is the best way to get George Allen a football life? You're not getting any calls from NFL Network on that. Is it the best? I know you can get it at Amazon, but can you just MikeRichmanJournalist.com? Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, that is my website. And of course, you can get it through Amazon, all the traditional means. But um, if you want a signed copy, go to my website. If you want my John Hancock on it, I'll personalize it for you. MikeRichmanJournalist.com.
Yes, folks. Thank you, Mike. This has been a lot of fun. I'll probably order one myself, even though I've got a tight budget. I would love to bring you back on, sir, if something happens the day after the regular, what do they call it, Black Monday now?
Right. I think it's imminent that Rivera is going to be fired. So if you want me back on, I'll come back on, Robert, and I'll give you my analysis of what's going on.
Yeah, man, this is awesome. And I want to tell everybody, not the two, I'm just telling you the truth here, folks. Mike is well known around the DC area. Do you still do local interviews for the TV that they ask you to still come on and break down stuff? Because I've seen quite a few interviews you've done over the years.
Yeah, I have not. I'm not like a beat reporter or anything like that.
Right.
So I don't really break down the team that much. What I do is I do
historian, though. Yeah.
Historical overviews of my work. I give a lot of that. I mean, I've had a ton of interviews regarding the George Allen book, George Allen: A Football Life. I mean, I've been on radio stations, webcasts such as yours, and podcasts. So yeah, I've had a lot of interviews about that. I've had other historical interviews over the years. Local radio station, I remember them interviewing me, WJFK, in the summer of 2020, when Snyder announced that he was forming an exploratory committee to retire the name and logo. And so JFK brought me on. They wanted my analysis. And I basically explained to them a lot of the same things I explained to you, that it was a Native American that envisioned the logo. I also said it was, it was primarily pre-Hollywood. I mean, I think the term Redskins at times was used in a derogatory way, but it was really Hollywood that took it to a new level in the old Westerns.
Oh, okay.
I explained that too. They would use the term Redskin in a very insulting, derogatory way toward Native Americans.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just. Do you think maybe they'll try to bring it back? Is there any chance?
Well, it's interesting. The new owners, several of them over the summer, including Magic Johnson and Harris, and even Mitch Rales, another minority partner, they used the term Redskins in the context of the glory years from the past.
Yeah.
Now, whether they'll do it, whether they'll rename the team Redskins, see, I don't think Commanders is going to last. I think it's kind of it's
The
like it's such a vanilla name that
vanilla. Thank
I
you.
don't think it really inspires anybody.
Yeah.
I think because Redskins can be so controversial
Hmm.
that I think that the best situation would be if they pick a nickname that still evokes something from the past, such as, speaking of the Hogs, such as Red Hogs.
That
I
would
think
be
Red Hogs would be
perfect.
great. Yeah,
Yes.
Red Wolves, Red Hogs, something along those lines. Red Hogs. I mean, you're talking about the Hogs offensive line from the past, so it evokes
Winning.
that great glory period when the Hogs were so prominent. They were the best offensive line in the game at the time.
Wow. Well, that's perfect. There we go. Man, we got all the problems solved.
So, but in answer to your question, I don't think Commanders is going to last. I think at some
Commanders won't.
point,
Okay, you're breaking news here.
yeah,
That's
I'm saying I don't think. I mean, I've never had a conversation with any of the owners about this,
yeah.
but I think at some point they're when they've been here a few years. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. When they've
Okay.
been here a few years, when they're established a little bit, I think that I don't think Commanders is going to be here for a really extended period.
Okay. Have you met Magic Johnson? I forgot he's a minority owner there, right?
I have not met Magic Johnson, but I saw Mitch Rales in the press box at the
Okay.
last home game, the Giants game on November 19th. Actually, he does come in the press box occasionally at halftime of the games, and this game he came in at halftime. I shook hands with him, and
Wow.
yeah, he's a Montgomery County native, as is Harris. Harris is from Montgomery County, Maryland, too. So
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that the stadium's in Landover, not unless that's changed.
no, it's still Landover,
Oh,
Maryland.
okay.
Prince George's County, Maryland. It's about a 25-mile drive from where I am on a Sunday morning. I mean, it's a hop, skip, and a jump. It's so easy to get there. But
Yeah.
but yeah, Rails and Harris are from Montgomery County, Maryland, DC suburb, and so
Wow.
they know about the glory years of the Redskins, and they want to bring that back.
Wow. Made me think about that song, Glory Days. That's Jersey, I know.
You're in Nashville.
Yeah, I'm out of Nashville. Yeah.
So So the Redskins at one time were known as the team of the South.
Wow.
Yeah, they were the southernmost attraction in the NFL because
Right, because
there were
the
no other
Panthers didn't
teams.
come till later. Yeah, Atlanta didn't come till later,
Atlanta
right?
came in 1966, I believe. New
Okay.
Orleans was 67. And of course, Carolina and the Tennessee
The
franchise.
Florida teams, yeah.
Yeah, well, the Dolphins came around 66. Jacksonville was like 90s, but
Yeah.
Carolina was 90s and Nashville was 90s as well. So
Yeah, later 90s for us.
yeah, so the Redskins were the southernmost team in the NFL, and their owner at the time formed this vast broadcasting network. The games were broadcast all throughout the South, including in Tennessee. In
Wow.
fact, Steve Spurrier, who's a Tennessee native, I remember him saying when he came on as the Redskins coach in 2002
Yeah.
that they would get Redskins games down there. That was the team they followed, and Joe Gibbs
Wow.
too. Joe Gibbs too, being from North Carolina, he said the same thing.
But man, small, yeah, Spurrier. Yeah, he's from East Tennessee. Yeah,
Johnson
won a
City, right?
Heisman. Yeah, yeah. He's over there close to Oak Ridge. There's like a nuclear plant and everything, and he still loves to rub it in, man. I'm a University of Tennessee fan. So
Right,
yeah.
and he was Florida, yes.
Yeah, he's Florida guy, and Tennessee didn't want to play the kind of offense, and that's why he went to Florida and won the Heisman. But hey, you're really taking me back here. Yeah, how long was he there? 2 or 3 years? Did you think he was going to last with the Redskins?
He lasted here only 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, he wasn't a pro coach. He didn't really like it here.
yeah.
He was here 2002, 2003, and yeah, he brought a lot of his college players here who couldn't hack it in the NFL. So
Danny Werfel, right?
Danny Warfel, and there was another quarterback he brought from Florida. I forgot who that was. It's been so long. It's been more than 20
Such a
years.
nightmare. You just like to forget those years, huh?
Yeah. Oh, it was such a nightmare. Well, the 2002, he was 7-9.
Yeah.
Yeah, close to
Wasn't too
500. But
bad.
2003, oh, they were so horrible in 2003. They were 5-11 that year. There was just so much turmoil within the team. That
Yeah.
was the year that Bruce Smith broke the sack record,
Oh
and Bruce
yeah.
Smith and Bruce Smith, he sounded really selfish and self-centered. He said at one point, "I have personal goals and team goals." His personal goals would be to break the sack record, and his team goals, obviously, we want to see his team win. But to say something like that, it didn't. It wasn't a great public relations move.
Yeah. I remember that year that Washington got all those stars. Remember they got like Dion and Bruce Smith.
Bruce
Everybody
Smith.
thought they was going to the Super Bowl in 2000.
Yeah, Mark Carrier, Jeff George.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a disaster as well. That was 2000. That was actually Snyder's first chance to put his fingerprints on the team.
Yeah.
The 2000 season. See, 99, he owned the team as well. And that was his best season owning the team. They finished 10-6 in the regular season and made the second round of the playoffs. The very following offseason, the 2000 offseason, he acquired all these free agents who had made their marks with other teams, so aging players, and
Yes.
they really had no mileage left in them, very little mileage left in them. So he acquired them. He destroyed the chemistry from the 99 team by doing that. Deion Sanders, he wasn't a Washington Redskin. Bruce Smith was a Buffalo Bills player. I mean, Jeff George was a mercurial player. I mean, he was getting in arguments with coaches and teammates and
Yes.
everything. He had no right to be here at all. In fact, Marty Schottenheimer, who became the Redskins coach in 2001, he kicked him off the team after the second game of the season. He couldn't stand him.
Dion said that he wanted to. I read this today. He wanted to retire because of Schotten. He didn't want to play for Schottenheimer or something like
He
that.
did. I believe he did step down at that point.
Yeah.
But I think he came back, if I'm correct. Didn't he play for the
Did
Ravens?
he really?
I think he came back for a season or two. I believe he played for the Ravens. I may be wrong, but I think he did come back in the NFL and played a couple seasons. But he got lost when
Yeah.
Schottenheimer was here. He was the first person out the door.
Yeah. And of course, Pickles brings up the Titans. Some things were. I'm sorry about that.
That was one of the Snyder eras, the Snyder regime's worst
biggest disaster right there.
To bring Albert Haynesworth here.
Yeah.
I mean, he was such a headache, and they brought him here in 2009.
Yeah.
And then in 2010 he just had just a horrible season that year. That was the year that they lost a Monday night game to the Eagles that year, and Haynesworth was he fell on the field, and Michael Vick, the Eagles quarterback, was scrambling around. He had all day to pass back there. Haynesworth was just lying on the field, and he didn't get up. And the offensive line was looking around, what am I supposed to do? I don't need to block this guy. He's just lying on the field right now.
He did not. He just wanted to get that guaranteed money and get out of there.
Oh, my God. He was guaranteed so much money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Snyder paid him so much money. It was just an embarrassment.
Whew. Thank God those days are over with.
Yeah. Well, he should have. I mean, any team should have known after he had the incident where he stepped on the helmet of the Cowboys player.
Garrard from Dallas.
He was
Andre Garrard. Yeah.
Right. He was just a major cancer. He should not have been here in the first place.
Yeah, it was just a bad fit. You know, I always got good memories of him because he played great for Tennessee. Then he played great for the Titans, but he said he didn't want to put it in the 3-4, and he doesn't want to admit that, hey, it was just about the money. He said Tampa offered him more money. He said he got lied to, but I don't believe Haynesworth.
Yeah. Wasn't he NFL Defensive Player of the Year one year?
If he wasn't, he was very close. He dominated, man. He was great against the run, but he played for with that 4-3 under Fisher. I can't remember our defensive coordinator at that time, but the defensive line coach, very good. But he always had anger problems and weight problems, and go figure.
Right.
Yeah. So
he was just a major headache. It was just a bad decision for Snyder and his front office to bring him here. But it was one of the egregious mistakes that Snyder made during his ownership. I mean, one was alienating Brad Johnson, who was a really good quarterback in the 99 season. He had a 4,000-yard passing season, but then he acquired Jeff George. So Jeff George and Brad Johnson were competing throughout the 2000 season. They were playing a few games here and there. and it just made Brad Johnson so angry, and he left
And won the
after that
Super Bowl
season.
with Tampa.
Exactly, he got a Super Bowl ring with Tampa, and then the second worst mistake, in my opinion, was getting rid of Martin Schottenheimer, because Schottenheimer coached the team to an 8-8
Disciplinarian.
record.
Yeah.
Disciplinarian. He coached them to an 8-8 record in 2000, and
Yeah.
they started 0-5 that year. And I think he would have continued with them. He would have had them in the playoffs. He was a disciplinarian, but the players figured out, they rallied around him. At first, they didn't like him. Like we said, Deion Sanders, he got lost.
Yeah.
Darryl Green didn't like him. Bruce Smith didn't like him. But then they rallied around him. He
I
was a coach.
forgot Darryl Green was still on that team. Wow.
Yeah, he retired after the 2002 season. He played 20 years here.
Boy, he was great, man. My dad loved Darryl Green. Mr. Consistent. Do you have anything else you need to plug, Mike?
All of my books, actually, 3 of my 4 books are available for sale through my website. The Washington Redskins Football Vault sold out after its first printing in 2010, 6,000 copies. But I have copies of all of the other books, especially, of course, the George Allen, A Football Life, and the Redskins Encyclopedia, and Joe Gibbs, An Enduring Legacy. All those books are available and make for great holiday gifts. And just go to my website, MikeRichmanJournalist.com. I'll give you a personalized copy, signed copy, and
And it'd be cheaper if they're shipped through your website than order them individually through Amazon, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're
I read that off your website.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna buy those individually, first of all, the Joe Gibbs book isn't available through Amazon.
Okay.
It's only available through me.
Okay.
So the Redskins Encyclopedia is the only other book that's available through Amazon.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
And of course George Allen, Football Life is available through Amazon.
Wow, this has been fun. I really appreciate you wanting to come on. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Robert. I really loved the conversation. Sorry I butchered your name when I first got on.
Oh no, Pickles. He's one of my regulars that you like to chime in. Him, Chad, Olivia. I mean, yeah, I just it's kind of like a little crew here.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, and I love your questions, and I mean, not only asking me about George Allen, but we really went through Redskins history.
Yeah, I love this, and Allen, that's an interesting. So he kind of set the tone, is what you're saying, for what Gibbs kind of ran with. But,
yes, he did set the tone exactly. It was like the awakening of a sleeping giant with Allen, because when he came here in 1971, he took them to the playoffs for the first time in a quarter century. They finished 9-4-1 that year. So the fans were just, they were longing for a winner, and he delivered. And then he went to the playoffs a total of 5 times in DC during his coaching years here. And then Gibbs, he took it and ran with it. Right. The fanaticism took on a whole new dimension with Gibbs. I mean, they went to 4 Super Bowls and won 3 of them during the Gibbs years. They were one of the elite teams in the NFL during his 12-year period.
Wow. Yeah. The Redskins, the 49ers. That's the 2 teams I think about when I think about the 80s football. We throw in the 85 Bears, but there were more consistency with those 2 organizations. Okay.
And the Giants too. The Giants were good too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Giants. Yeah, LT. I mean, can't disrespect Parcells and Belichick there, So Kathy says thanks, guys. Chad says thanks. Well, have a good night, Mike. And listen, I'll tag you with all this. I might not get it all tonight, but I'm gonna blot it out just the part for your interview, and I'll send you that as well here on Facebook. I think we're friends on Facebook. If we're not, I'll get it to you.
Well, I'm following your page on Facebook.
Oh, you are? Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, I'll just put it in that way, and I'll clip it,
you have a separate
Mike.
Facebook page as well?
This is the Facebook that we're on now page, and you can, I don't know if I'm individual friends with you or not, but either way, I'll be able to clip that, and you can take it from the page that way. I just now thought about that. Yeah.
So you'll send me like an MP4 or
something. Yeah, I could do that. And but I'm saying, like, here on the Facebook part, take out the early part of the show, just the interview with you. And you can use it for whatever you want to.
That I would really appreciate that. Yes. I would like to use it for my own social media as well.
Yeah.
I'll comment on your page too.
Yeah, I'll do that. And of course, I've got it on Spotify. I can send you the podcast too, because I download the show to the podcast.
Yes, please send that too. Send
Yeah.
it just our interview, but also send the whole show, and I'll definitely use it for my social media.
Yeah, now the podcast, I don't know if I can clip it like that, but I'm still learning this StreamYard system, man.
Well, it's a great show. I love your initiative, and
Yeah.
obviously very ambitious. And yeah, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm like yourself. I'm totally independent. It's all me. All my own money. Now I got a day job being a mail carrier and medical lab carrier, and then 5 days a week I do this show. It's the second year of going 5 days a week. It's a major sacrifice. I used to work 14 hours a day. Now I work about 8, and then I do the show 5 days a week. So,
That's great.
Yeah. So trying to get the national radio show going, but I'm just doing it by my own rules, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure. Well, keep me in mind if you want to have me back, talk about it when the coaching change does happen.
Yes.
We can talk about that.
That's huge. That's huge. I bring in former Dallas Cowboy Jim Jeffcoat. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Yes.
I work with him on Sundays, and sometimes he comes on the program. It's a very good friend of mine. Been working with him for about 3 years. And I've got a super friend that's getting pretty well known. His name is Jamie Paggs, is a Philadelphia guy. And I got Jack McGraw, better known as John McGraw, better known as Mac. He's a super Giants fan. So I got the whole NFC East.
Well, that's good.
In there, you'd be there. There you go. We got the Commanders.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are the cream of the crop right now, but it'll be interesting to see what happens to them in the playoffs because, while the Eagles are just dominating everybody right now, they have been, I think they trailed at halftime of the past 4 games, which is not really a good sign. Okay.
I think though they are. Who do you like Sunday, real quick? 49ers or Eagles?
You're going to have to tell me where that game is in San Francisco.
It's at Philadelphia, right? Yeah.
It's at Philadelphia?
4:25 Eastern.
At Brock
I like
Purdy.
The 49ers. I already made the prediction.
I'm going to go with the 49ers.
Yeah. They're 2.5-point favorites. And they're healthier, too, by the way, than the Eagles.
Yeah.
Go Dirt's out. Fletcher Cox is probably not going to play.
Right. And the Eagles, I don't want to say they were lucky to beat the Bills on Sunday, but hitting a 59-yard field goal in the driving rain.
In the driving rain, yeah.
Yeah. So, and also, their special teams really stepped forward for them.
Yeah.
They had a block kick, and the Bills kicker also missed a chip shot. So all those special teams plays decided the game. Speaking of George Allen and special teams, he was the pioneer in the area of special teams in professional football.
And I think the Eagles are like 28th against the pass. I'm like you. I think it's going to catch up with them in the playoffs. They lost the Super Bowl. No team has went back, not named New England, since the salary cap era began in '94. Went back to the Super Bowl, and you know that, right?
Yes. So, I think this is going to. I agree. It's going to catch up to them. I think that being behind at halftime in the past 4 games, and also the regular season doesn't dictate everything. You just look at the 16-0 New England Patriots from 2007.
Yep.
They were rolling over everybody through the regular season, and then of course they won their first 2 playoff games. Then they lost in the Super Bowl. So I don't even know if the Eagles
are happening. I see it. Yeah. Here in Tennessee, the Titans, they get put out in the divisional round in 2000 to the Baltimore Ravens. They lost the Super Bowl the year prior, and I'm still getting over that loss, man.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I got to give it to Jalen Hurts. I think he and Mahomes are the top 2 quarterbacks in the league right now.
Yeah.
And to have one of the elite quarterbacks, that takes you a long way. You really need an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl. And the Eagles have that.
And it's probably his MVP to lose at this point.
I would say so, yeah. And they have great receivers, Brown and the other guy.
Yeah,
and,
I know. We gave him A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown, yeah. Their offense is solid, but I know Fletcher Cox is out. So
yeah. Goldart's not going to play. They might get Zach Ertz, but not this week.
Right.
So have a good night.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it.
See you, buddy. All right, everybody. If you'd like the show, share the show. Tomorrow, I'll be back here with Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez here. Mad New Yorker Chavez here. Same time, same place here on Sports Go. So please share the program. Great guest. Great crowd here tonight as well, everybody.